Uh, yes, we are live, so you can start.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining this weekend. This is Swami. What are we going to discuss today, and what we are going to do for next 1 to 2 hours? So let's start with this introduction, and we'll see the full picture, how it looks, and what are we going to achieve, and we'll go step by step. So this today's session is exclusively on the concept of how can I create a full stack application having .NET Web API as a backend and Angular 12 as a front end. So how can this interaction goes? I mean, the login and other security features like auth guards and other things has been exclusively removed. It will come in future episode in 2 to 3 months down the line. But this is just to showcase excluding that login piece. How can I create a full stack application? And other way of doing this APIs is through gRPC, like microservices. Like some people will go ahead with REST microservices. Some people nowadays they have started using this gRPC web. So again, if someone exposes the gRPC web, and how can I integrate with this? So technically, if you have a gRPC microservices, you cannot make a direct browser based connections to it. You need to add the web capability to the gRPC. So what are we going to see in next 1.5 hours to 2 hours? So we'll go step by step. We'll understand what is expected out of this and how are we going to progress. So first we'll see there are two types of microservices we have. So first we'll see that what is the backend API. It's a web API using ASP.NET Core. We'll quickly walk through those uh, code and not much time, but definitely there is learning from that which we can reuse. Like if you see the npm packages for this Angular world, similarly we have dlls or nuggets for .NET world. So it's just similarly the pip packages for Python. So it's all same. There is some reusable component and we are reusing that. So what is the advantage, or why do we need to focus towards the reusable components is one of the concept or takeaway which you can take it, because the reusable components which we use to create the web API, using the same components we will be able to create the gRPC within few very short time. Like if you see that any of this more Mongo Express or Mongoose in this Node server web API, Mongoose is a reusable npm package. So every time someone wants to connect to MongoDB, they just download or install this package, Mongoose package, and they'll start with this ORM. So imagine a scenario if you don't have the Mongoose package in every project you work, you have to build that from scratch. And the advantage of having this Mongoose in place is it is a reusable and a lot of people will test. And any additional functionalities we can add it, or any bug fixes we can do it. But releasing the updated version of that particular package, rest of the people can start using it. That's the one of the advantage. So we'll see that, and then we'll go ahead and quickly see how can we create this Angular 12 app and retrieve the content from Web API and gRPC, and then we'll see the data representation. There are different ways to represent the data, like you have a tabular form or a list form, or a list form with infinity scroll, or tabular with infinity scroll, different concepts. So we'll see at least two types where we can showcase this representation, whether it is a data representation or the table representation or the card representation. Okay, that being said, let's start seeing about this one, web API. So before that, I will see that my database is ready, web API demo DB, because sometimes what happen is web API demo DB. Yeah, I have that. Okay, cool then. So let's go to this one quickly. We'll see, and then we'll do a one round of testing. And here we have this different layers, a typical layers, like you have the core, you have business logic layer and DAL layer. So these are the three layers which are pretty common, equivalent to npm packages. So it's a reusable library technically, but I didn't push it to NuGet package to call this as an npm package, but just for the sake of understanding, I'm calling it as a similar to npm packages. It's a reusable component. So these are the reusable components. Technically, that should be under NuGet packages, but I'm having it mine on local. So the concepts the concepts are pretty important, which you can take it whether it is in .NET or Java, Python or PHP. Use it anywhere. In Node, it's all pretty similar. So the core is a concept where we have all the reusable things which can be used across multiple projects. So and across multiple layers also in our case. So if you see that core, that's being used in data layer as well as the web API layer. This is a component which has been used in multiple layers and multiple projects. So it has got entities. So what are these entities like professor and student? They are one-on-one mapping with the database tables, which is there over here. So if I go here, so this is one. So these are the two tables. And if you see the professor ID, name, date of join, teachers, salary, is PhD, picture URL, and rating. So these all things are all the fields which we have in that particular table. So you can see that we have the professor ID, and we have picture URL, we have name, and we have date of join here, and teaches what subject he teaches, and we have the salary, and we have is PhD, and we have rating. What is the rating of this professor? And all the list of students under this guy. And if you see the student, it has these fields: student ID and name, roll number, professor ID, under whom this guy is mapped, and the fees, whatever it's being collected. So that's similar to, I just want to compare with the Node Web API, so that we'll be more towards the mean stack kind of thing. I just want to open one of the mean stack one. Just whenever we need, we can compare the mean stack. Let me open that so that it will help me to do the comparison. So if you come in here in the mean stack, we will have the models. So where we have this mongoose model. So we have the author, title, date of published, language in red. So this how this model represents the table inside the MongoDB, and also these are the fields inside that JSON doc. So similarly, if you see here, we have that. Okay, and also we can add all those validations which we use using the joy or happy joy, whatever the validator which we have it, we can do very well here also in C#. I just want to compare so that people coming from the mean stack or a MERN stack, it will be easy for them to understand, okay, what is this, its equivalent in C#. Okay, and rest of the things is this. These are a couple of interfaces where if you see in our Angular apps, also in our Angular apps, we will have those interfaces. If you go into that app and interfaces, you see that the professor data DTO or web API DTO, there are different DTOs are there. So the same in the similar the net the concept is you'll expose an interface uh, to this one. So here also we are having the interface, and this interface we are exposing. We're telling that this interface has got two methods. Whoever is implementing that, they have to implement these two methods. So the first one is enumerable of professor, which is not exactly equivalent, but just for a comparison, I'm telling that, which is somewhere similar to this one. This one, professors DTO of array. Just whatever the output which is coming in from this, it will we are storing it in the professors DTO API of list of professors. Technically, here is the enumerable exposes the enumerator which supports the simple iteration over the collection of a specified type. So here the collection is of professor. Here the collection is of professor. The professor is again a model which we have seen that, and here other one is get professor ID. This will get an individual professor, and if you compare that, okay, I just added only one method just for comparison sake. And next thing is, what do we have here in the business logic layer or the data access layer? So the business logic layer has two methods because it is implementing the I professors BLL. So where is this I professors BLL? So college core has got all these components. It has got the common, and it has got the entities, and it has got the interfaces. So this particular reusable library is being used by college BLL, and the same core library is being used by college.dal, and the same college core library is being used by this college.web. Technically, these three are different layers, and this is an project in which we are consuming all these three. We'll see how in a moment. So this two methods we are implementing, and technically this business logic layer is calling the data access layer. We'll spend a couple of minutes in this data access layer before we start testing it. So I just want to compare this college DB context. So this is a college DB context where we have this context and we are exposing two DB sets. Okay, so you can see that DB set. We can query and save the instance of professor, that object, whatever we have seen that in the models folder, that you can save as well as retrieve, query that one. That's a DB set. And again, if you come back and compare with our Monstack stuff, you can see this like a mongoose having those models exposed there. Here in this mongoose, if you see that we are exposing book model here, we're exposing this book model. So similarly, here we are exposing the professor's model. Here, this one, the professor model. So here we are exposing this book model in Mongoose. Here in C Sharp, we do the professor. We expose this professor model. So similarly, here I'm exposing two models. We technically we can do a number of models here also, but I just want to do a comparison between Node, the mean stack versus .NET. But technically, if you take the A out of mean, Node Express and Mongo, and compare that with the C Sharp, technically we are doing the same, plus or minus here and there, but the concepts are pretty much the same. And what Professor's DAL does is it will utilize this college DB context, and it does the communication. Like if you see this get all professors, it goes to the DB context and talks to that particular professors and retrieves it. So if you want to understand a little bit more than what we needed, if you see the data DB set, there whatever we are using it, that is coming from the college core, and whatever is the professor on the right side is purely the table which exists inside the table which exists inside the SQL Server. Okay, I just want to give a little bit more knowledge on that one. Uh, uh, I will start this so that we can go and see what is there in that, how it translates. So if you see this here in the tables, here we have two tables, professors and students. But if you see in the model, we use the name professor and student. But the table name, as we use plurals, professors and students. So you can see that professors and students. So that's the thing. And is it starting? Yeah, the Docker engine is starting. Once it starts, I'll get into the Mongo instance of the container, and I'll show you how it's there. So I just want to show a quick uh, plain diagrams just to understand how the things. Uh, okay, so the first thing is you can see this here. So here we have the database SQL. So the first guy in the line is this guy DB context. The first guy in the line will be DB context. Then the second guy in the line is DAL layer, and the next guy in the line is BLL, business logic layer, and the next guy in the line is API. So API depends or hits this layer. Okay, he will not jump and directly go talk to the data access layer or directly go talk to the DB context. So here we are setting a defined set of rules that which layer needs to talk to the other layer. So there will be a strict contract between web API and the business logic layer. So when I'm calling this method, you are going to give me X as an output. So that's a defined set of contract between the web API and business logic layer. So this guy will talk to the data access layer, and other guy will go talk to the DB context, and then the last communication between the DB context and the data store. So technically, that's the communication channel. So it will be like this. Okay. So coming back to this one, if I want to show you guys uh, the comparison from want to compare this, how it turns uh, model to the table. I just want to do a quick comparison. I'm here and show DBs, and here I use books DB. Okay, that's the other one. If not, it will be books. Technically, I used that in other one. 1 second. That's on the Mon stack. That's in the Mon stack here. That's in the Mon stack. Correct. 1 second. Sorry. That was, yep, this one. Okay. So that's what I used it in the previous this thing. So if you can go and see, we are having this books database here. Use books DB. Now show collections. So you have books collection over there. So technically, that's what I just wanted to communicate. Let me close this guy. And if you come and see that we are adding this as a book, but if you see the collection, it will be books. So similarly, if you see here, we are adding a single professor, but the table we represent using professor. It's just a convention. There is no hard and fast rule that it should be plural. You can have it whatever the way, but just a convention which we follow either in the Node.js world or in the .NET world. That's a convention. Okay, so that's the thing. I just wanted to show you guys on that. So I just close my Docker container. I'll stop this and I'll close this. I don't need it now. And I think we understood that how the layer is being progressed. Just to show that, I just want to keep the debugger once so that again, from next time onwards, we don't need to understand what is happening. Just we'll spend 5 minutes time so that we'll have the good knowledge on how the things are being progressed. So there's something known as a dependency injection. We'll see that in the dependency injection, and how does the dependency injection is how does this dependency injection is being injected. These dependencies are being injected, and how does this dependency injection works. That's what we will see in next 5 minutes. This is the one time we'll put all the debuggers and we'll see that, but rest of the time we can be pretty fast, directly go talk to the concept and jump from there. It'll be easy on that. So first thing what we will do is how I have to cover one more topic here in this data access layer. We saw that we are going and talking to the DB context. Similarly, in the Node.js world, what do we do? So in the Node.js world, we'll go to this controller, and inside this controller, we have this book model that's coming, and we go talk to that book model. So here we have the middleware. We have this middleware in the router for every operation which needs the id based operation like book/book id, so that we will use it for get book by id, or update book by id, or delete book by id. For all these three operations, we need a book should exist. That's a prerequisite. So what we did is here we use the use middleware. So any of these three operations here, line 30, 37, 38, 39, we use we call this piece of code which goes and finds whether the book exists or not. If book exists, we add it to this request.book, or and then we call the next. Else we are sending it 404. If some error happens, we are sending 500. And and here in this we have the other methods are there, just as a comparison. How are we talking? So again, you come to the controller and you're using this, and you're doing all the operations. You see this get book by id. So if it is passing through that middleware, that means book exists. It will definitely come here and it will send it. And update book by id is we are not worrying whether the book exists or not, because that's being taken care as part of the uh, reusable middleware function. And here we directly go and specify the action what it has to do. It has to go and modify the database, and here we do the delete operation. So technically here in C sharp, how we do is the this is not the only way. There are other ways to do it, but this is one of the way to do it. Okay, just wanted to emphasize that this is one of the way to handle. So web API will talk to the business logic layer, will talk to the data access layer, and data access layer will talk to the DB context. And core is a project which we have the models or the DTOs has been defined, and the DB context will use the model and the table name to tie both of them and go talk to this one. So let's spend a couple of minutes on this one. And one more comparison. One more comparison is, if you see in Node.js world, we will have this env files. So we'll have this env files where we go and specify the port number or node environment, whether it is development or stage or production and all those things. So we specify that here. In C sharp world, we specify that as part of the app settings. app settings file. So technically, I use this kind of syntax. I don't specify what it is. I use the user secrets. So what is that user secrets is, if go you see that all the connection strings, everything exists here. It's not it's nothing, everything is existing here. And if you see the path, the containing folder is this one, which is not equivalent to the folder where the source code is there. If I go here and open folder in File Explorer, this is the folder where my C# code is there, and this is the place where I have uh, my secrets. So technically, if you see that Lord Krishna GitHub, this path is not equivalent to this path. So this is somewhere in the file system, which is not equivalent to the place in the file system where I have my source code. So I can happily check in. So someone can ask, why do we need to specify all these things in app settings? So why I'm specifying this everything in the app settings, so that anyone who any team member who grab this code and wants to execute this, they should know that what all the things which they have to specify. So in the secrets, I've specified my local host, this DB. So others, they know that what is their local database, or do they have the server somewhere which is hosting the database, they can very well use this one. So those are the two important points. So if you compare that, you can do a comparison that with the .env file in node world, right? So let's see the dependency injection. How does the um, dependencies get injected? Let me execute this for a moment and we'll go. I'm just keeping this here. I'll take a snip so that I can close that PowerPoint. I'll get some extra space. Okay, so we have it. Here it comes. And I just want to go ahead and click on professors, try it, and execute. And I think in Node.js world also we have the Swagger. Now, if you see that uh, in this in this row, the last man standing who doesn't have any dependencies is DB context. So the first one who's getting constructed is this DB context. I'll remove this debugger and then I click on continue. So the next one who's standing is this DAL layer. So this guy will get constructed. So I'll remove that. And then next guy who's standing there is this layer, and the business logic layer. If you come here in the business logic layer, if you want to dig deeper, what we can do is we can see that the DAL layer, which has been perfectly injected, and that layer has got a dependency on the DB context. You can go and check that the DB context is injected. So if you see that the business logic layer depends on the DAL, so that got injected. And if you expand this DAL inside this BLL, it shows that DAL has got its child or a dependency as a DB context. That's what we are seeing here. The professor DAL, which is inside the BLL, that object has been properly populated, and once you go, you see the college DB context also injected properly. Okay, now let's go to this. The next layer is this one. The fourth is this web API, and this web API also, if you come and see this, the entire dependency has been constructed and it gets injected appropriately. You can see that web API has got a dependency on a BLL, and BLL has got a dependency on a DAL, and the DAL are the dependency on the DB context. Now you understand how the dependency injection works. So you see that the last man standing in the queue, this will get constructed, and that will get injected in the DAL, and DAL gets constructed, and BLL gets in. This DAL gets injected in the BLL. BLL gets constructed, and BLL gets injected in the web API, and we can start using the web API. And why did it choose? Anyone can ask, Swami, why did it choose this DB context? Why didn't it start from here? So if you go inside the code to controller, let's start from this side. Let's go from 4321 to understand why it has chosen the DB context and why didn't it choose any other layer. Why didn't it choose controller? Why didn't it choose BLL? Why didn't it choose DAL? Why did it choose context? So if you see this, the professor controller, it has got, it is injecting, it's doing constructor injection of this BLL and logger. Logger is the one which comes out of the box. So it goes into the professor BLL. So it says that, okay, to construct this, I need one dependency. So let me go and check, can I build BLL? And once it comes to the BLL, then it realizes that to construct this BLL, professor dal and logger, there are two dependencies. I'll show you in a moment why, how this professor, this logger is a built-in dependency. We'll see that. So there is a dependency on the dal. So it comes to the dal, it wants to construct the dal, then suddenly it realizes that, okay, the college DB context is another dependency. Then it comes to the college DB context. So in the college DB context, we have a parameterized constructor, but we do not have the dependencies. See, this dependency injection we can compare with the dependency injection here in Angular. So you see that private HTTP client HTTP. So what is happening is this HTTP client is getting injected. So similarly, if you come to the components over here, if you come to the components over here, and what are we seeing here? So this series, you are having the professor's professor API service. That's one dependency. So this, how these dependencies are getting injected, the same concept. So I'm just using the Node API as well as Angular when I'm showing you the C# code. So here what's happening is, here we have the dependency. Now if I go to this dashboard component, we are going to build everything, guys, but just hold on. Here we have the constructor, but we don't have anything dependency injected. We might have a parameterized constructor, but it's not dependency injection. It's not a dependency injection. So here it is a parameterized constructor, but we don't have any dependencies. But in C#, we doesn't have that flexibility, that where we can declare this private and the property name and the class or service name. So that becomes a dependency, and this will be globally available inside this class. I'm sorry, globally means within this class, this particular property will be available. But in C#, what we have to do is, we have to explicitly specify those properties at the top, and then we have to add the parameterized constructor with injecting these two here. So this is how dependency injection works in, one of the way dependency injection works in C#. There are multiple ways. I'll be speaking only on one of the ways. Okay, and that point we all understood. Now we will see that uh, here we are telling that, okay, the professor service has to be injected, but I would like to go a little bit deeper here to show you guys how the dependency injection, from where these things will get injected. Okay, that I would want to show. Ravi, hello. Hello, Ravi.
Yes, Tommy.
Yeah, Ravi. While I'm showing this one piece for the next 2 minutes, sometimes what happens is my mic will go mute when
Okay,
I'm.
okay.
Yeah, just give me a shout if you, because see this, this one quick watch Shift F9, and the same Shift F9 is to mute the mic also. So sometimes it
Okay,
might go. Yeah, right.
mm,
So see this, guys. This is the service collection. This is the container where all the dependencies will get injected. So we go to this, do a quick watch here. So here, if you expand this container, where you can see this, all the different options are there. One of the option is this iLogger and iLogger factory. So that's one thing. And now if you come and quickly, you can show that. Now we are adding all these dependencies. If you come again and see this over here, you see the number of dependencies will get added more. So apart from this logger, there are other lots and lots of dependencies are added. And at the bottom, if you see that, all the dependencies which we added as part of our application, Professor Dal, BLL, DB context, and all these things, whatever we have added here, those things will also be added. Now we understand that, like this guy, the service collection, he's a guy which holds all those dependencies. And in any place when we say that, hey, give me the instance of the professor BLL, these are part of the application dependencies that we added here. And as I was mentioning previously, that the logger was coming out of the box when we put a debugger at the first statement. The logger was existing here in the line number 29. So that means those are coming out of the box. So there are some dependencies which are coming out of the box, some we added, some dependencies are our application specific. If you see from line 43 to 49, these are our application specific, but again these are coming from the framework, like the adding the controller or adding the swagger. Now it has been baked in Node. We have to add some extra code to see the swagger, but in .NET they have given as a method built in. So by default, you have to check an option and it does everything. We don't need to sweat at all for that. And this is a course, and that course is pretty similar to the server here in the Node.js, where we go and expose the cars. Just as I was showing the demo, I directly expose everything. I mean, the attack surface is wild when I do the demos, but you guys should be taking care of exposing only the URLs. But I go pretty wild while I'm doing my demo, just expose it everything. Okay, that being said, let's quickly see one or two methods here, and then we'll see quickly go back to the gRPC, because a lot of fundamentals we have covered here in the first 20-25 minutes, and I think we are good there. So you can see that I can go and grab all the rows which are there. Here you can see that Vignesh, George Reddy, and Mithun Nair. We are 3 records here, and you can see those all 3 records: Vignesh Iyer, George Reddy, and Mithun Nair. So we see all those 3 records which are coming in here, and I can select Mithun Nair's professor ID and go back to one and try it, and I use this one and execute. So I can see that particular record is coming out. So we were able to successfully test this one, the web API. So now let's spend not this much, because we already covered all these fundamentals. We covered the reusable layers, we covered the models, and we covered the DB context, which is equivalent to the Mongoose ORM. Here it is EF core. EF core is ORM for .NET, and Mongoose is EF ORM for the Node side of the world. So I was just doing the comparison between both these technologies, and we saw that models, and we saw the models in Node, and we saw cars, and we saw that dependency injection. I was comparing with the Angular code, and I compared with the C#. So I think quite a few ground has been covered. Now let's see that gRPC, the other way to expose the API. I mean, the purpose of gRPC is entirely different, which I will not touch now, but at least I'll tell you. There's a lot of service to service communication, or when you want to expose a web API, that's also one of the things. So just we'll spend. So you can see this lot of usages. Why would I want to use gRPC? So gRPC is purely remote procedure call, RPC. So the remote procedure call, which was existing since mid 70s and around that time. Okay, so we had it this since long ago. So this is gRPC's CNCF project. Okay, where should I how do I get started? That's a different thing. And where will I use it? So you can use it at multiple places, like low powered devices, or service to service communication, or a lot of other communication between data centers. And one more advantage is it's purely like a, cross language or cross platform kind of thing. Like you can have the client in Node.js, and server is in Python, and there's other client which is in Java, and there is other server which is exposed in C sharp. Now all these four people can talk seamlessly without any problem. They all can talk. So that's a big thing. So let's quickly see that. I just want to show this one. So you can see this, some of the things which got compared over here. So we have this REST versus gRPC. So this is like a as I was mentioning, the low power devices and other advantages. It goes on HTTP2. So there is a added security, and again there is compression also that we will see in the demo when we are using in Angular. But that's at a high level. That's one of the way to expose this. So now if you see the code, and if you compare the code in API, what is that we have it in API? We have one controller, okay, and one controller we have this routes and the methods. So that we can pretty much compare here in this here in this app.js. We can compare that with the books router. So we have slash API, we are going to the books router, and here you can see this, the books router we are exposing. There's a middleware piece which you added to find the book, but apart from that we are exposing get books, post a book, or get book by id, update a book by id, or delete book by id. And here we have the controller which goes and really talks to this one. So similarly here, if you see that we just have a controller, and everything is, we are using it as part of the project dependencies. So we are using the BLL, we are using the core, and we are using the DAL. Now see this, the API itself is pretty thin. The API itself is pretty thin. Now if I compare that with the gRPC, how do we create the gRPC? For creating the gRPC, the main thing will be the proto file, the college.proto. So this is an interface. So everybody should stick to this interface. And after that interface is done, the next thing is we have to implement that interface here inside this service, any one of the service. Because I have the college, I'm implementing college service. Greet is being implemented the greeter service. So that is pretty much. And this mapping is for automapper, where we want to transfer the content from the data transfer object to the anemic model or domain models, and we want to convert from anemic or domain models to the data transfer objects. A different kind of model, transforming from model A to model B, or model B to model A. So that's the reason. But net, what I want to compare is what I want to compare is the, by having the reusable component, how lean our APIs are. We don't need to worry because all the concerns are being moved to its respective libraries. It's becoming a different layers. We just move all this functionality to those respective layers. Okay. So while I'm talking, I need to step back to this one for a moment, uh, because this will take a little bit of time. Let it cook. By the time we do 5, ng web app. Is that the name I gave it? Okay, ng college web app. College. Okay, I'll simply call it ng web app. That's good, shorter. Okay, so let me come back here. Let me go. We'll start source and file. Ng new. Sorry. Ng new. I am creating a new project here, and let's see what is the version I have. ng version, because this itself will take some time. So let's spend this at 1203. Okay. Let's give this options and then we'll go back to the gRPC discussion. Okay. I would like to have the router. I'll go by CSS. Okay. Now it's taking time. Whatever the time it takes, we can discuss this one. So, uh, yeah, I was just comparing by having these reusable, even though it is 10 lines or 15 lines or whatever it is, but the advantage what we are seeing is by having these different layers, what we are able to achieve is we are able to create a web API, and similarly we are able to create another microservice with gRPC. So both the web API and gRPC are using the same three common libraries. You can see this here over here. In this dependencies, you have the project. These three has been used. In this dependencies also, you use these three dependencies. So apart from that, other framework DLLs or libraries which we are using, these are the common. So what's happening is the major functionality which we moved it here, we don't need to write a single line in both these places. So when we compare that, here if you see all the reusable things here, like the middleware we have in one folder, and technically these could be different libraries, isn't it? Apart from the libraries which are coming as part of this package.json, you can see this one, like a .NET or Colors or Express, Mongoose or Morgan, Chalk, and Happy Joy. So these are some of the dependencies, reusable components which we are using. Apart from that, we have some of the reusables here also. So similar concept is this one. So we have the packages which are coming in from the framework, as well as we have our own reusable components. So that's how what is happening is it's being pretty much used in everywhere. Okay, so that's a pretty simple way to describe what we are doing in this. I would like to demonstrate this before we jump full-fledged on full-fledged on that. Just give me a moment. I will go and use couple of libraries which I have it. Oh shit, sorry. Let me add a folder, add an existing project. That's one project. And we'll use the Windows Forms. But all those things will be in the same today's folder. Entire thing, whatever we are working, will be in this folder. Okay. So let me go start this instance. So let it start. 1 second. Let's give it time. So it started. Should be. Okay, now it's loading. Okay, it started. Cool. So now what we do, this is the gRPC server. You can See that it is starting on port 5000 on HTTP, and on HTTPS it is on 5005. So we can technically take that and come in here and just click on that. So it says that communication with gRPC endpoints must be made through gRPC client. So as I was mentioning that, we, even though we have the gRPC API, mostly if it is it will be through the gRPC. See this, if the endpoint is this one, what it says is the communication, whatever we are seeing the message, the communication with the gRPC should be made through the gRPC client. So we have a couple of clients, and apart from that, we are exposing the gRPC web also. That's a different story. We'll start with the Angular in 2 minutes from now. But this, let's see quickly on how this communication happens over the non-gRPC channel. So non-gRPC web channel, I'm sorry, non-web channel in gRPC. So there are two channels with which you can talk. When an gRPC microservice has been exposed, you can talk to it either through the web channel or through non-web channel. So right now we are talking to it through non-web channel. Let me go to George Reddy's ID. I picked his ID and I come back over here and I uh, paste his ID and I say find professor, and it goes and finds that ID. You can see that it's all there. I will go and copy. I delete this, and I'll select it, and again I go and click on that. You see this, it took fraction of second, but it updated this data. So this is one more thing to focus over here is, see, you can see that application slash gRPC. So it's not coming over web, it is coming through client channel, HTTP client. That's what we saw when we initially hit that. So it was telling that the communication to this gRPC endpoint must be made through gRPC client. So this is the communication which is happening through the gRPC client, not through the web. Now we will enter the world of web. So this was a broad introduction about two types of microservices, one with REST or web API model and one with the gRPC. Okay, I'll shut down this over here and switch back to the, I can close this, so I'll switch back to this one. Okay, right now we have everything, and couple of things I would like to do. So let's do that first real quick. And what is that is, I'll get all the dependencies so that, while we are talking through the rest of the code, or how this gets booted, booting and everything. So we'll quickly go and do a little bit of this one. Let me go and do that. Packages. So one is, we have Angular, we have this Angular common, Angular core forms, and we have the platform, and here the Angular router is also there. So after Angular router, we need this gRPC web when we want to talk to that one. Without that, if we have RxJX, that should be enough. But here we want to talk to it through the gRPC web also. That's one thing. The other thing is, we need this bootstrap, and other thing is this browser headers, because we need to pass some of the headers, and also we use this font awesome, and we definitely use the Google port buff. I'll tell you what this Google port buff is, and I need the TypeScript for GUID, and then RxJX is there, and we need this TS protogen. So that's the one which generates the files for us. Okay, let's start with that. Okay, while that is cooking up, we will do a couple of tweakings, whatever we need it. So one of the thing is, we'll go to this Angular JSON, and inside this Angular JSON, I generally prefer to have my own port, different port. If not 4002, I just want to go ahead and use that one. So first thing is that I will use it. And second thing is, as we know that the output path is this one. And how does Angular knows that what is the first file, where what file it has to use it? So we have it over here. You see this build, and the builder is this build-angular browser. That's the thing which is used. And you see this here in the options. It says that index file, it has to load this index HTML. That means this file. And main, it says that execute this main.ts. And here we are specifying the assets and styles. So when we use this css files, when we use this bootstrap or font awesome css, this is one of the place we can go and import that. Okay, that's a personal choice. I will directly import it in styles.css. Additionally, I mean, you can either do it here or do it in the styles. My personal choice is, I'm doing, previously I used to use the this array. And another thing what I do is I just go ahead and add the external port, whatever is that. Let's do that quick modification over here. Okay, all the packages has been added. um, just to reduce the noise. Okay, anyway, I don't waste my time in spending there. Instead, we'll productively spend here. So you can see this here. The configuration is production and development. So here I go and add this. Okay, so you have the IntelliSense also. The moment you go and type port, because the port is already there. Let me delete it, and I go and say port. See this? The moment you do it, it shows. So 4005. So you can go ahead and do that. The port we have added. So that's the two tips which I wanted to give. One is this piece, and another one is uh, the port. Okay. And next thing what we will do is we'll come back and let's import, just to save the time. We can do it later. I'll just do a full straight lift of the entire uh, css file. I come in here, I'll drop it. So you can see at the top, what we are doing is we are importing the font awesome's css as well as the bootstrap css. Okay, and let's go and see this index html. Just let's run that and npm start. So when we do npm start, what is happening is, oh, I'm sorry, just a moment. I need to move that. I need to move the entire contents. One second. Okay. It's taking time. Okay, I will move this way. That should be fine. Now, okay, never mind. We can stick to the folder structure, whatever it is. I will go to the first step. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. Let's see this. Hmm. Let's go to this package JSON. I don't need this. I don't need this extra files. Let's remove that just to avoid the noise. Okay, let's come back to this one. And here we have this package JSON. So whatever we execute, like ng start, npm start, it's coming and executing this command. So another thing is we'll add this -o, so that once it compiles, it executes this one also. We do this build, watch, and test. So let's say npm start. So let it start, and yes, allow it. I did that. So you can see that it has started this compiling. So once it compiles, it goes and starts the server. Oh shit! It made 2 copies. We created our life a little bit of mess. No problem. I'll clean that. Yeah, while that is building, let me do the cleanup. Okay, that and I'll do that. I mean, let it because we are in this folder. So it's compiling. Let's give it a minute to compile. Okay, good. So I think there might be some problem as I was deleting files left, right, and center. I could have deleted something. npm run build. 1 second. It might create because while it was executing, I just created few files. I don't know whether I would have deleted one of the file which is needed. If it is that's the case, I think we need to go back to square one to start. But let's see that. I think it should build properly. If it is not, then we'll recreate it. It might take only 5 minutes more, but we'll have some mental peace. Yeah, looks like I have created the damage. So once again, cd dot. Let me delete this folder in its entirety. Just give me 1 minute. It's deleting. So ng new. It's deleting. Let it go and delete. Ng new college web app. Take this name, ng new college web. So I wanted the route. I said delete it permanently, and I use CSS, and it gives all those files. Okay, good. It has removed that. It is creating this folder now. And in the meanwhile, we can discuss some of the concepts of here. We can see that how the things work, and then we'll start building it. At least I want to save some time. I'll go here and I'll start this web API. I'll go to this folder and I do cd source and 6 npm start. Okay, that's the web API which is running, and I'm showing the previous version of this project so that we'll save some time instead of watching this being created. Let's go and see how the integration is happening, and then we'll come back. And anyways, we are going to build it from scratch. Uh, okay, so you can. This is the Swagger. That's for the .NET, and the application is still under build. It will build. Okay. Mod. Yeah, glass of water. It shouldn't take this much time. What is the version? Yeah, it's version 12. Ooh. Wow. Why it's taking this much time? Is it because it's one shell it is executing? It shouldn't. Wow, for some reason it is taking too much of time. That should be fine, no problem. So let's get down to this one and go to college web. We have all those files over here, and we'll do npm start just to see that how does the initial version of the application looks. Let it compile and let it execute this. In the meanwhile, we can go and open another shell, and we'll do the packages whatever we need it. So we started packages from here, so let's take this package. So let's monitor over here. So it is building this. Let it build and execute it. I don't see any reason why it should stuck here, whereas this one is already started. We executed this command a minute or two ago, but I am really not sure why it is taking that much time. That should be fine. Anyways, this the new one is coming up, so we don't need that. Okay, perfect. So if you come and see this one, here we have the initial application. It just loaded it, but we didn't do all those npm eyes. So I do this. I come into this college web, get into this folder, source and college web, and let's start installing those packages. It will not take much time. Okay, anyway, this guy is also come. So we'll see that while that is coming. npm I, that's one. And another one is we need bootstrap. We need bootstrap. And the next one is browser headers, because in gRPC needs this browser headers. So for that reason we need it. And font awesome is for icons. And Google port buff is to create the it's a package which needs for the protobuf file, whatever we use it now. And this TS Proto-C Gen is a generator which generates the libraries whatever is needed for that. So let's go through this. How does it looks? And I will open this one over here, and I'll ask to get stick into this. We can come back to this network tab, and let's go and click on this professors. I don't know whether it is going and hitting the gRPC. I think it is hitting the gRPC. Oh no, no, it is coming hitting this one 5002. So that means it is technically hitting this one. So this one is going and hitting the gRPC, and the other one was web API. So if I come and see this one, this is going and hitting this because I didn't start the gRPC one, but it will let me start the gRPC also, so that we can see the quick integration. What are we going to build in next 40-50 minutes? Uh, we'll see that what are we going to build, how does it look with integration from both the sides, from one from the API and other one from the gRPC. So let me come back over here. I go click on this one. Any thing whatever we don't need it, it is we don't have the URL or someone trying to go to page which doesn't exist, we will be routed to not found page. That's one small thing, and you can see that you have all those professors listed here, the images which are coming in here, and the rating, whatever is the rating. If you see that rating is 4.8, and this rating is 4.1, and this rating is 3.7. So we have those three ratings, and cool. That's it. I think we have what we needed. I'll stop this and we'll start building that. Uh, okay, so I'll switch to the first node, and we'll quickly go and see this in the package.json. Do we have everything? Yes, we do have everything. And one small change I do is this one, and another change what I do is come in here in the browser, port 4005. That's the one which I need to add. I just added that one. And another thing what we will do is we'll come back to the styles and grab this entire styles, and we'll put it over here. Okay. And the other thing what we were discussing is how the application gets bootstrapped. Okay, we'll discuss now. Just a moment, I will remove that, and I'll write this hello web API and gRPC. So anything without hello, we never feel like we are doing some application. So you can see that it shows this hello gRPC and hello web API and gRPC. Okay. Apart from this, what I would like to do is just do a little bit of facelifting. We'll start discussing on this one. I will take this and drop it over
Yes,
here,
can you?
and
Swami, sorry for the interruption.
also I will bring this guy in. Yeah, Ravi.
Yeah, yeah. Can we wind up by 11:45 to 11:50? Actually, I need to
Oh
step
yeah,
off.
we will definitely. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely, Ravi.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
instead of
because
going into
we
very
are in
details
this
of the
phase.
facelifting and all, yeah. So if you can spend time
Yeah.
more on the integration of
Mhm.
gRPC and Web API, I think you can manage the time better.
Integration. Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Sorry for
Correct.
this
I'll
interruption.
just focus on that piece. I'll just.
Sure.
Oh
Okay.
no, no problem. I mean that's it. Fine. I mean I need to
Yeah.
have this direction, is it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. So right now what we will do is at this point of time, let me close all these windows so that I can focus on few things. Straight away, I'll come in here and start creating some of those files, whatever we need it. And then we will start going from there. That's good. So what I will do is just to speed up the time, Ravi. Let me go in here, Rebellion Explorer. I am in here. This one. college web. Okay, so let's copy some of those files that will help me speed up. The first thing is I'll copy the assets. I'll copy the assets from there till here. So I have a few images, right? I have those images. I have copied those assets, and coming back to app, I will go and copy all these things and drop it over here so that now it looks identical. Okay, cool then. So now that we have everything in place, we need to stitch it properly. That's it. So the first thing is we do have it over here, and the next thing I will go to this app module where I need to where I need to fix this, and also where is the routing? Yeah, the router. So first let's fix one by one. So come back to this one. I will have this routing over here. So I'm taking this routing. So the router, whatever we have seen, let me bring in this missing components. So one is that dashboard component, one is this employee card representation, employee table representation, and page not found. So we have all those four components so that uh, routing has been fixed. Uh, Let me come in here. Sure, that will fix this. And I need to come back to that environments and need couple of URLs for this environments. I will quickly come in here because the one which is executing in the gRPC and the one which is executing in the web API. So let me go and add those two here. So some of the errors, I mean, I just packed everything here, so it will start cribbing for next 5 to 10 minutes. No problem. Let it uh, let it do that. It is that's done. And Google put buff type, is that the one what we did it? Yep, that's the one. I think I will start and stop the server again. So that's one thing. And the next thing from the integration perspective, let's start that. We have this app modules. I'll go and check what is there in the app module. So I have to declare all these things over here. So I will come and use everything. It will, I mean, all these red squigglies will go in next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, I'm declaring all these components over here. Okay, and here we have this browser HTTP module and this routing. I think that's pretty good. So all these things are done. So we fixed it. So the next thing is app component. So we see what do we have in the app component. There's pretty much nothing except this. Uh, this should be in our app component. I will remove everything and add it over here. So that's being added over here, and while it is building, so we will see what do we have. So we have something known as a proto. So in the previous discussion, we spoke about the uh, protobuf file. So the protobuf file is the one which exposes the service and two RPC methods. So their implementation is available in this gRPC server. So if you go and see, dig deeper into this one in OBJ, inside the debug, inside .NET. So you see those protos file, and you see this college gRPC and college CS and college gRPC. So if you see this gRPC, this is where it is creating the server component. This is where it is creating the server component, and it will also create a abstract base class, that's called as a service base class, and it will create a college that will have all the models. I mean, just for our understanding, I'm calling it as a models. It is a input output, whatever it comes in as an input, whatever it goes as a output, that's there. So here in Angular side, what we have to do is we have to create that. So if you see that, you can see the equivalent of what is there. Here you can see this college service get all professors, and get professor by ID. You're seeing all those types here, and here you can see this the port buff. Here you can see those messages, and also the service and client. It creates those services and clients, everything over here. You can come and see this is the port buff. It creates the client for this communication. It creates the clients, and there it creates the server. The only advantage of using C# is we don't need to execute any command over here. We don't need to execute any command. The tools, the Visual Studio tools itself, Visual Studio and the tools which we have it, they themselves will go and create it. But for Angular to work, what we have to do is we have to execute couple of commands. I pasted that command. I pasted that command here, but I'll give you that command. I will check in the code in the command. We have to execute this command so that it will create these files. Initially, these files will not be there. We have to execute this command. I'll give you those command also in this one. So here you can see this the college service, and also the models, the data models, whatever we use it, all those data models also will be here. See this get professor request is there, and get professor request, and all the serialization, deserialization, whatever is happening, you can see that here in this file. This has to be generated, and that is the reason you see one of the other thing which is getting implemented. You can see that there is nothing in here. So what are the things which are needed? Let's go step by step. So the first thing is we need to have the protobuf file, and after that protobuf file, we need to execute that protobuf compiler command, so that it creates these files. It will create these files. So these are the files with which we communicate. Similarly, in C# also we see that it creates a server component, and it has got this service base class. And here, if you want to work, we have to work with the client. So that client will be created here in this one. You can see this. It is creating all professors response. That's a model which we have it here in the protobuf file, all professors response is this one. See that? That's a one. And you see this all professors response. It is here. And get professors response is this model, get professors response. So that's over here. And how it is deserializing and serializing this content, and how it is using that get teachers, set teachers, all these properties it has created. Now here we have the request. So with this file, if you see this file is from here till here. All the data models are input output. All the input outputs has been defined in this one, college hyphen pb. Now if you come to this service, and in this service, if you see this, it has got this type, and college service get all professors. So see this college service get all professors, this method is here. And another one is college service get professor by id. So you can see this college service get professor by id. So these are the two things. So it makes a note of what is the request, what is the response. So this file we have to create, and this is the importable. Okay, that's there. And another thing what we have is this dtos. I've created one dto is for API, and I created another DTO for the gRPC. Okay, so the one notable difference between the gRPC, why do we need to create a separate for the gRPC, is the date time. So here in this date time in gRPC, they will be having something known as a timestamp. They will not have the date time. So the timestamp is made up of two components: get seconds and get seconds and get nanoseconds. So the timestamp is made up of nanos and seconds in Google. So this is coming from the Google port buff. And here in our date, maybe in C sharp or this one, we know that how it has got all the month, date, year, and all those things. But in Google port buff, the simple thing is it is made up of timestamp, which is little bit different. So I had to create a new DTO. Rest of the things are same: professor ID, name, date of joining, teachers, salary, PhD, picture, URL, and rating. Similarly, we have all these things over here also. Okay. And the corresponding, if I want to make a request, so we have interface and we have protobuf file, and we'll execute that command, which will give us this these files will get generated automatically. Okay. And inside this readme file, one second. I will add that command. I didn't add it here, but I will add that command in a moment. Okay, no problem. So the next thing is we have in the environment we have defined two things. One is the web API URL and one is the gRPC URL. As we saw that those two are executing in two different ports. So the web API executes in 5002 port and gRPC execute in 5001. So these two URLs. So 3 points. One thing is we need to have the protobuf. We need to generate those client components. The second thing is we need to have the interface, and the third point is we will have the environment URLs. Cool. After that, what we will do is we'll go to the service implementation. So in this gRPC, in this API integration is pretty simple. We know that we will have this HTTP client as the dependency injection, and we make the call to HTTP client, and whatever the content which is coming, we are converting that into Professor's DTO APIs array. So that gets converted. And coming back to this one, here you can see this Professor API service has been injected inside this employee cards, inside this employee cards component. And here on in it, we are invoking this, and whatever is the content which is coming, which gets loaded here, right? So I will go and execute this. We'll see that. And how is the gRPC thing? We'll see that inside the table. Here I am adding that gRPC service. Okay. So I have in gRPC service, one of the method is not taking in anything, and also the browser headers. This is what we need to specifically focus on. The gRPC headers has to be passed here when we are invoking the call to. When we made a gRPC client and we said that get all professors and pass these headers, so that headers are must in that. So once we make this connection and get the content comes here. So I'm taking the gRPC professors list into all professors, and then we are resolving this. And once that is done, we will use that gRPC service over here. You can see this professor gRPC service. We will invoke again the same thing on init. We'll invoke this, and we call this gRPC service. Once it returns the result, we are converting that result dot professors list into this professors list, and again professors list is professors DTO. Similarly, the same DTO, except that the timestamp, it's not the date time, it is a timestamp in gRPC. For that reason I had to create two DTOs. If not, I would have used the same DTO, because if I don't use, then it will be a lot of ifs and else inside the code, just to avoid that confusion. Okay, this is running, and let's run the gRPC also. Let's execute the gRPC. Okay, so gRPC is also executing. So we have it over here. So let me go and hit this professors list. Let's go and come into the network tab, and we'll see that it is bringing in this content. And if I see that it took 4 uh, 4.51 seconds, and it bought 1.2 kb. Now I go and hit this gRPC. Now you can come and see that. Yeah, if you remember from the previous execution, when we hit that, it said that application slash gRPC. It didn't speak anything more than that. So now you see this, it says that application and gRPC web. So we can see that, just to compare that, we are coming from a different channel, not coming from the client channel. So if I go and start a new instance, let me go grab Mithun's this one ID, and let me copy that and click on find, and come back over here. Yeah, it bought Mithun's. Now you can see this, it says that application gRPC. That means I'm coming through the client channel. Now when I come through the browser app, it says that application slash gRPC minus web. So that means I'm coming through the web channel. That is one point to observe. And the second point to observe here is it took, because it's a initially it took little time, but if you see the content wise, it is half the content. So every time we can compare that. See this, now I go to the second it, now it bought 1.2k, that's a web API. Now if I go and hit the gRPC, it is bringing 418 bytes. So see this, the content which has to traverse from server to our machine is half in size. So that's the reason we are saying that wherever we have low bandwidth, this gRPC suits best, because the content wise it is less. Why it is less, we can see that here. If you use the web API, the output is JSON, which is human readable. But if you go to this gRPC, it is binary, which is getting transferred from server to client. So that is the reason you see that the size is less, but it is not that much human readable. When you compare that with the this kind of content, which is clearly I'm able to read it, what is this each. But when it comes to the gRPC services, the output is this binary format. So that's the reason it is little, almost less than half in size. So we are gaining on the content which has to travel. And sometimes the gain in the time is also good when I compare with gRPC. But this is not the things which we have to make the decision whether we have to use the gRPC or web API. But you guys have to do a thorough technical analysis as well as the performance testing before choosing one over other. But I'm just showing how it behaves on my local laptop. But this content wise is for sure there will be a minimum 50% reduced in the size of the content which has to travel over the wire. So there is one advantage over here, and the other flip side is when you're choosing gRPC, it's not a flip side, it could be, I don't know, but the other point to focus is how much content you are bringing. So are you bringing 10 or 25 records in each page? Is the content less than 4 MB? That's a max memory size, which the response message size which it supports in C sharp. But I don't know what it is, the length in Node.js or Go language or Java. I'm not sure, but I'm talking from the C sharp side. So what we have to consider is when we are choosing that backend, maybe any language, Node.js or Python or PHP, you want to go with gRPC, you have to verify this one also. How much content which is coming in from the server. So does it support more than 4 MB or 5 MB, whatever is the content length we are having? If it is not supporting, we can tweak something and increase the size of the server to support the extra content being sent. If you increase the size, is it chewing up the memory, or is will there be a memory issues? So we have to consider all these things. So that's it from my side on this. So just wanted to show you 2 points, like whatever we were talking. So we are not having any console issues whatsoever. So these are the two different kinds of representations we have. So one is the card representation and one is the table representation. And another thing is we are having purely the view component or presentation component. So what does that view component or presentation component means? If you come and check this shade of this rating component, and inside this rating component, the code of this rating component, if you see that, that's only the logic or the computation, how much length it should compute, how many stars are there, everything is dynamic. We don't even know that what the user is going to give. So see this here, the rating bandwidth, or the current rating, or the full bandwidth, we don't have any clue at all. So if you go and see here in this rating, so we are telling that how many star rating. So some people will take 5-star rating, some people will take 8-star rating, or some people will use 10-star. Give a rate us from 1 to 10, some people will say 1 to 5. It could be dynamic. So the number of stars also will be driven by the parent component or the component which uses this. So that's dynamic. And also what is the current rating, and they are giving the event handler also. So nothing, this component, if you see this, the rating component, it doesn't have anything dependency on the server or anything. You don't need to go out to get the content or the inputs. The whatever the inputs which is needed by this component is being supplied by the parent who uses it. So this we call it as presentational component or view component. It doesn't have any intelligence. You give me the content, I'll just go and display. So if you see that for this, what is needed, it needs how many stars rating it is, what is the current rating. So the input is coming from the parent component. All it does is go and flush it out onto the screen, whether it is a 4-star rating or 5-star rating or whatever the star rating it is. Okay. So other things also, we have seen that whether you're coming through the gRPC web channel or gRPC channel. Okay, that's it, Ravi.
Thank you, Swami.
Hey Ravi, thanks so much.
Yeah.
So anything else?
No, nothing else from me.
Oh, okay, cool then. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining. You guys have a safe weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Yeah.
bye
Thanks for
Ravi.
the session. Yeah. Meet you all again. Bye. Till then,
Yep,
stay safe.
next month. Bye.
Sure. Bye.